Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Parsons, the UK's Chief Youth Officer and the CEO of the Youth Group. Today, I'm here with the Chancellor to get your questions answered. Some answers to those questions from my community. So, hi Chancellor.
Hey Jack, how are you?
I'm brilliant, thank you. And thanks for sitting down with me and giving me this opportunity to talk about a number of things: young people, the budget, mental health, and the Kickstart scheme.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It was great when we did that panel a while back, so good that we could follow up with this.
I didn't wear my jumper today that I got sent, but...
oh, the Kickstart hoodie, yeah, good. Well, next time we'll do a trip.
Absolutely brilliant. So my first starting question is, we've been through a global pandemic, we've been through two lockdowns, and what is the overall message of the budget?
I think what I'd like to say to people is, even though it's a difficult time, and especially for young people, as you said, for all the reasons you said, I don't want anyone to be left without hope or opportunity. And that's if they take one thing away, they should take that away from it, right? So in the short term, what does that mean? It means still a lot of difficulty in the economy, but the government's going to be here. It's going to keep supporting you, your business, your family through the crisis. I did talk a little bit about public finances as well. We've got a challenge with our plan to fix that so that we can secure the future, especially for young people. And then lastly, I talked about this future economy that we're trying to build, an economy where wherever you happen to grow up in the UK, there's fantastic opportunities for you. And hopefully that leaves people with a really positive and optimistic sense of the future.
I love that, and I love that you've acknowledged that it is a tough time. There's a saying I use: when you're too close to the elephant, all you can see is grey. So sometimes about stepping away from the elephant, seeing all perspectives, and you're really taking that into consideration with all the different challenges that people are facing. So I really like that.
Oh, I'm glad. Well, it's especially for young people, which you and I discussed before, right? Because if you're young, you're more likely to work in the sectors that are most affected. For example, hospitality or retail, you're more likely to be furloughed. And if you've left college, school, uni, you're entering, a really difficult labour market with lots of people lost their jobs. So, and we know for young people, if they don't get that help early on in their careers, it makes big negative impact, for years to come. So we've got to get in now and try and help.
Hope, skills, and opportunity.
That's exactly it. As you said brilliantly that time when we did the first panel.
Brilliant. So this part of the questions that I've had from what I call #MyTribe, we've had over 500 questions in, and we've had to narrow them down.
Right. Okay. That'd be a stretch. Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about the budget, and I want to go in straight in and talk about a lot of people. When you tagged me in the tweet that you sent out saying thanks Jack for helping 700 Kickstarters, a lot of company owners, managers jumped on. They called the excluded UK. What can you tell me a bit about that, and why are they feeling that they're excluded? And can you give some information about that so we can address that?
Yeah, so a lot of people will feel that they haven't been able to get help in the exact way that they have wanted, but that doesn't mean that people can't get some support. So I think whether there's so many different things we've done through this crisis. So for example, people who had mortgages, we introduced mortgage holidays with the banks for 6 months. For people who had small businesses, there are bounce back loans. Lots of other companies have got cash grants, and local councils have been given £2 billion to help businesses in their area at their discretion for people who might not be getting something in another sense. But we have a scheme for the self-employed, and we said when we set that scheme up, it's tricky to get that scheme working given the information we have. There's a particular group of people who they take money from their companies in dividends, and they would like money to compensate them for that. And the challenge we have is there are around 600,000 of those types of people, we think. And we don't know because it's part of the problem. There's no official record of who these people are. And the problem is there's 600,000 of them there, but actually we get dividend information from over 3 million people. So 3.3 million people send us a tax return with something about dividends. So if you were going to try and send money to these people, you'd be sending money to 3.3 million people, where there's 600,000 that are the ones that you would all want to be targeting. And I have to balance, your money, your tribe's money, taxpayers' money. If we're spending 3 out of every 4 quid not on the right thing, I think that's a tricky thing to do. So we found other ways to provide support to people, as I said, all the other things we do.
Absolutely, and it seems very tricky in how to navigate it or manage it. So I want to move on. So Leon from Peterborough asks, what support will this budget provide for young new entrepreneurs who are wanting to start out or have just started out?
Yeah, well, there's great. I mean, there's brilliant. I'm massively passionate about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship in general. So we have a program called Startup Loans, which has already in existence, but we boosted it last year at something called the Spending Review. So go online and look up Startup Loans. That's seed funding to help your business get going. It's a government-sponsored loan. And then, the new thing that I announced at the budget is a scheme called Help to Grow. And go online, gov.uk/help to grow. And what we've said there is for newish companies that are small, we're going to give them help with management training and digital software to help those companies grow, become more profitable, hire more people, and the government's going to give you an enormous discount to do that. It's super exciting. It's going to launch in the autumn. You can register now, so go to the website, and that will help you unlock your business's potential.
Wow, I love that. Help to grow.
Help to grow.
I'm a big believer that everyone should be a digital citizen. So get out there and look at that up, and also startup loans for those young entrepreneurs who are starting out. We want businesses to be built, and we want young entrepreneurs to go out there and give it a go with their ideas.
We absolutely do. And I think Help to Grow is it does what it says, right? It's our way of helping those small entrepreneurial companies go to the next level with great software or a brilliant mini MBA, which the government can take care of a lot of the costs for you.
Absolutely. Great. I've got another question about the budget. Grace from Walton Park asks, what are your budget plans for keeping youth clubs and youth services across the UK alive?
Yeah, no, Grace, it's a really important question. So, previously we talked about something called the Youth Investment Fund, and we will spell out the plans for that over the course of this Parliament. But in the short term, what we did is, again, it's something called the Spending Review, which we did in the summer. We announced £30 million for this next year to refurbish and upgrade youth clubs across the country. So that's new funding. And also, we know charities generally have had a really tough time during the pandemic because they haven't been able to raise money in the normal ways. So I announced about £750 million last spring to help local charities. And I think when I last checked, about 60 million quid of that, but don't hold me to that, I might have got that a bit wrong, but tens of millions of pounds went to local youth charities to help tide them through what was a really difficult time and keep those vital services going. But we also have National Citizenship Service, NCS, which is also out there for young people as well.
Amazing. So the money that the Youth Investment Fund, that is still to be planned out.
Yes, when we do our big spending review later this year, we'll set out all the plans for the rest of the Parliament. But in the short term, good money to support youth clubs and help them get through.
Amazing. Barbara from London has asked, how much investment and opportunity will be given to those interested in arts and creative industries?
Barbara, well, I'm a huge fan of our creative industries. If I think from my economic perch, it's a really important part of our economy, employs millions of people, and it's something we're really good at, and we export all around the world. It's part of our soft power. So what have we done? We announced something called the £1.57 billion Cultural Recovery Fund last year. No other country did anything like this, and it means thousands of cultural venues, everything from a small local theatre in your market town to national galleries and museums are getting support because obviously they can't open and we don't want them to disappear because they're critical. We topped that up at budget with an extra 300 million quid. So that's going to provide support through to getting them reopened later this year, hopefully. But also we created, skills are really important in this industry, and apprenticeships, which you and I are both big fans of. They normally need an employer to grab the apprentice, but in the creative industries, what you find is people are not necessarily employed by one place. They have multiple different jobs at the same time, and we don't have a brilliant model for that. So what I announced at the budget is a new scheme to create this kind of flexi apprenticeship, which will work for the creative industries, which will help people get into that industry working with multiple people at once, but still get their apprenticeship.
I love that. I love that. And the next question I've got is around the Kickstart scheme. You've put together a brilliant Kickstart scheme. I'm one of the biggest fans, as you know.
You are brilliant at it. Thank you.
I just think that this scheme has been absolutely amazing for youth across the country and young people. With all my heart, I think it's amazing. what is the next steps? I've had a number of questions around, is the Kickstart scheme going to be extended? What is the opportunity next? What can employers do to help those Kickstarters move forward?
So, well, thank you for your support, because this is one of the things I'm most proud of, and I think this can make an enormous amount of difference to 250,000 young people is what it's been funded for. I think the next step is we've found already over 100,000 jobs for people. What we want is all those young people to start those jobs, because this lockdown has not made that easy. So hopefully as we start to reopen the economy, we can get all of those people into those workplaces, which would be fantastic for them. And then we need to get the other 100,000, which we're working on, and all those bids are coming in from companies. And then what we want is to see all those young people on a path to success, right? So that many of them might end up staying with that company, and that's great. But even if they don't, they will still get training from their employer. They'll check back in with their work coach from DWP towards the end of the 6 months and make sure that they're ready to take the next step, whatever that might be. It might be another job or an apprenticeship or something else. We want to provide support all the way through the Kickstart job. The funding is there to run to the end of this year. But I've said repeatedly, if this program is working and we think it's making a difference, I'll look to do more of it. But at the moment, we just need to make sure that we get those 250,000 young people into work.
Amazing. So I want to turn to jobs now. Oliver from Surrey asks, what can young people do to get ready for the exciting industries and skills that have not yet been created or here?
Gosh, Oliver, that's a big question. Well, one thing we have to help, and we talked about digital earlier, so now we have these digital boot camps where, if you're in a difficult spot, you can talk to your work coach about them. They're fully government funded courses, which last 3 months or so on average from memory, and you get a digital skills boot camp. And that's a great kind of step up to try and get the skills you need to succeed, because digital is such a part of almost every job now. And similarly, we have these things called traineeships, which again, you can talk to your work coach about, which are work placements that come with specific sector training and maths, and they get you ready for work, CVs, skills, everything else. And we have a really good track record. 3/4 of people, young people who do these traineeships, finish them and end up either in full-time work or training elsewhere. So they're really good. So ask your work coach about traineeships and digital boot camps. Those are probably 2 practical things I could say.
I love that. So if you want to get experience and start learning some new skills, digital boot camps and traineeships. Go to your work coach.
And ask them about them and say that I said to ask.
Cool.
And we've increased the funding for all those things. So next year, at the budget we announced, the funding for traineeships next year is going to go up so we can triple the number, so tens and tens of thousands of new traineeships. And we're paying more to companies to provide them, because what the traineeship gives you is this work experience component, which is so crucial for young people. And we're paying the company a bonus to do that and provide these opportunities.
Love that. And my message to young people would be, the Chancellor said, don't be shy, go to the work coach and ask the question.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're providing all these opportunities for people. We want them to use them, and hopefully they will make a big difference.
Amazing. Nicholas from Birmingham said, if you weren't in politics, what would you be doing?
Right. Well, I mean, there was what I wanted to do when I was growing up, which was, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I always said I did want to be a Jedi Knight, and that was my main occupation for many years growing up. But look, what did I do before I came into politics is I was in business and investing. So what I did was invest in companies, give them the money they need to grow and succeed, and hopefully for the people who had given me that money to invest, make a profit for them as well. And that could be money from charities, it could be money from universities who provide scholarships for people. So there's lots of different pension funds. All those people have money, they need it to be invested, and that was my job. And I did it all the way from really small companies, little companies. We talked about, new entrepreneurs starting new small businesses, all the way to massive, large, multi-billion pound businesses as well. So that's what I did before, and I loved it. It's a great job. It's intellectually stimulating. You know whether you're doing a good job or not because it's measurable, and you invested at X, it went to Y or it went down to Z, and that's you've made money or not, and you learn so much about so many different businesses and industries, and work with great inspirational management teams and founders of companies. So that's what I used to do, and I do enjoy that. So yeah.
Amazing. I see on LinkedIn when you put how it started and how's it going.
Yeah.
It was lovely. It was great. I love that.
I don't think I was more in the Jedi Knight phase probably in when that photo was taken. Yeah, that was very early.
So Edward from London wants to know, what plans do you have to ensure that a school leaver from inner city London state schools leaves with the same employability skills as the opportunities if a leaver was from Winchester or Manchester?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I'm one of these people who thinks education is the most important thing. And there's no silver bullets in life for public policy, right? There's no one thing we can do as politicians that is going to solve every problem. I think, though, that the closest thing we have to a silver bullet is providing every kid with a world-class education wherever you grow up. And we made a lot of reforms to schools in the past. Education secretaries have done that. And what they've done is really improve the quality of the provision, the standards, the type of learning. And you can see it in all the results. We're now doing far better in all the international league tables. And we've closed that attainment gap that I was asking about. And so it's now much less dependent on where you grow up or what your background is, how well you're going to do at school. But that job is not done. It's never done. We have something called the pupil premium, which gets extra money to schools which have kids from difficult backgrounds. And the Prime Minister just announced the other week, a huge amount of money, and now almost £2 billion in total of school catch-up funding, particularly to help those kids who have been out of school over the last year and might have exams. So we're going to have tutoring for them and summer schools. So it's all really intensive help for those who most need it, because it was absolutely right. This is so vital. It's really important to me. It's a thing that transformed my life, going to this amazing school. And as much as we can make that a reality for lots of other people, that's what we should try and do.
What I really love there is I use this saying, #leave no one behind. And you're really, with the incentives that have been put in place and the programs, really trying to make sure every young person is not left behind to get the education they need to go on to thrive and do what they're passionate about.
That's exactly it, right? And everyone's going to want to have a different path in life, right? Everyone wants to do something different. Our job is to make sure that they have every opportunity to succeed. And that starts with just brilliant schools. And then when you get to 16, there's lots of options for you. We've got these new things called T-levels, which are technical versions of A-levels. We've got apprenticeships, go to university, we've got Kickstart scheme. We just need great options for you, regardless of what your passion is, so that you can go fulfill that passion and build a great life for yourself.
I love that. One of the tribe from Bolton said, what advice would you have given your younger self?
Oh gosh, career advice. Right? Well, I mean, I think there's not much substitute for hard work, to be honest, and that was something my parents instilled in me. And it starts at school, and it's boring to say, but in life, just working hard is the vast majority of the battle, right? And you can overcome most challenges by just working really hard at it, and that works at school. It sets you up for the future, and then be. I'd say if I tell my younger self, I'd tell them to be more open and more open to creativity and innovation. Right, I was probably on quite a fixed boom, 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 boom. It wasn't until I was lucky enough to go to California and study, and in Silicon Valley, surrounded by all that innovation and entrepreneurship, that probably changed me and opened up my mind a bit to think a bit more differently, think bigger, and think less linearly, to use a more technical expression. And I think that's good. And young people do that anyway now. They're much more creative and instinctively innovative and entrepreneurial than I was when I was young. But that's probably what I would tell my young self.
So work hard and be open.
And be open and flexible and creative. Yeah.
I use this saying, and I mentioned it before, the duvet flip. What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip that duvet, to be passionate. And your duvet flip on a Tuesday can be different to your duvet flip on a weekend, but definitely have that duvet flip to get out of bed, whether it's education, whether it's the Kickstart scheme, whether it's the apprenticeship. Just flip that duvet and be open and work hard. Yeah,
that is really, and your advice is excellent, that it's not always going to be the same thing that makes you flip the duvet, right? And it can't be, the thing that makes us flip the duvet on the weekend is going to be different, right, to the week. But you still got to flip the duvet in the week, because that's important too. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I want to turn the final part towards mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health is across the country. A lot of people are suffering, are feeling overwhelmed, confidence at an all-time low. So Ben from Kent asks, do you think it's important for companies to invest further in the well-being and community of their workforce?
Yeah, it's really important, and we've seen that over the past year. It's been a challenging time, right? Everyone being at home, not seeing friends and family, obviously has had an impact on lots of people's mental health, especially difficult for young people who are not able to go to school and see their friends. So it's right that whether it's schools, whether it's the government, whether it's workplaces, that we are mindful of that. Yeah.
Nathan from Harrow said, what has the budget provided for young adult mental health services in the light of the pandemic, young people in the pandemic now feeling lonely and isolated?
Yeah, so we did something actually a bit before the budget, which was in November when we had the spending review, which sets out money spent up for departments for the next year. And in there's a plan to increase funding for mental health within the NHS by over £2 billion over the next few years. And that will help an extra 350,000 young people, young adults and children, compared to how many are being helped today. And there'll be much closer coordination between schools and colleges and the NHS to provide that joined up approach to helping young people. So I think that's something that's really important. We also announced an extra £500 million specifically to help with the crisis this forthcoming year to deal with some of the issues that have popped up, which are obviously challenging, and we want to try and address those as quickly as possible. And the PM also has his new, that he was talking to me about this the other day, we've got a new youth mental health doctor, Dr. Alex, who people will know, who I think the PM and him were doing some videos the other day as well.
Amazing. And Nikki from Barnsley asks, young people's mental health when doing an apprenticeship can be overlooked. May the Chancellor put funding into mental health support for apprentices?
Oh, that's interesting. But hopefully the funding that we are putting in anyway into the system will help all of those young people, and because there's just going to be more availability of youth and children's mental health. I think it's the other thing the budget did do, which is slightly different, but I should mention it, is veterans' mental health. People who have served in our armed forces, often them actually are quite young when they still leave, and they have challenging mental health issues. And the budget announced some extra funding to go to the Armed Forces Covenant Trust, which is a charity, an armed forces charity, specifically to help them deal with veterans' mental health issues, which is a small, but at least shows that this is something that we take seriously.
Mental health is serious, and I love that. So that is all my questions from my tribe.
Right.
We've got I think we've got about a few minutes left.
How we doing?
We've had some in from live, so I'm just going to have a look at some of these. So Robbie from Facebook asks, when can we access Restart grants?
Robbie, those should come to the councils the week commencing the 5th of April. And then obviously they can get them out hopefully as quickly as possible. And that, for those that are Restart grants, are grants of up to £18,000 if you're in hospitality, personal care or leisure, and up to £6,000 if you're in retail, because they're going to open first, which will help if you run a small business, get going and get going again. But you should have the other grants run through to the end of March. So hopefully Robbie's getting that cash anyway, and this will be a one-off generous grant in April to help you restart.
Amazing. And another question from Facebook, are you planning to enhance the funding for UK scientific research in the coming years?
Yes, we've set out a really ambitious plan to double the amount of science funding to £22 billion over the next few years. It will be higher than we've ever done it. And the Prime Minister rightly talks about the UK being a science superpower. And this is maybe, I think we're out of time, but it's a great note to end on. This vaccine success has been amazing for us as a country, and it's something that everyone should be really proud of. And it starts all the way. We had International Women's Day on Monday. You've got Professor Sarah Gilbert running this team at Oxford, developing a vaccine that is now helping billions, literally is going to help billions of people across this planet, against coronavirus, and we're able to create jobs around that, manufacture it, whole industries. That's the Britain of the future. It's super inspiring, and hopefully it inspires people on this call. But that's what our future looks like. It's going to be built on science and innovation. It's going to create amazing jobs and opportunity for you wherever you live. By the way, that some of the vaccines are being manufactured in Teesside, where I was the other day. So this is not just a all in London thing, and that's great. And so innovation-based economy is what the future looks like, and we're going to be at the forefront of it.
Amazing. And the final question, is what are you doing to help people with poor credit get on the housing ladder?
Right, well, we have something that we announced at the budget, which the Prime Minister talks about turning generation rent into generation buy. Now, one of the issues is people can't afford a big deposit. And we used to have mortgages, which were 95% loan-to-value mortgages, so people who could only afford a 5% deposit. But because of the crisis, those have largely disappeared from the market. And what we're doing is stepping in with a government guarantee for those types of mortgages, and they're going to be up and running next month. Half a dozen of the biggest lenders are all part of the scheme, so you'll be able to get these 95% mortgages again, which will help those get on the housing ladder, because you're absolutely right, it's super important. Owning your own home is a dream. It's a dream that we want to make a reality for people, and this will help do it.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I definitely had my duvet flip this morning, coming to meet you and getting out of the bed and meeting the Chancellor. And I just want to say thank you to everyone tuning in and listening. I hope we've answered as many questions as we can. Thank you so much. Have a lovely lunch. And here's the Chancellor. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jack.